Now, this illustration deals with a shock risk assessment. It's a kind of a change of scope here, but it's NFPA 70E 110.1 I3. And Figure 1-17 lists and outlines some procedures that could be taken to protect a person from electrical shock based upon the voltage level that may be present. Now, if we should review first the note 1, then notice this person is using a hot stick, hot tool, whatever you want to call it, in accordance with 70E 250.1 item 2, and notice extending that insulated hot stick and wearing the appropriate gloves. That person is dressed in what I call a moon suit, flash suit, and they are using that hook stick tool, and they stand back further in the boundary. Now, note 2, the employees are exposed to electrical hazards due to a job task. An employee is applying safety procedures that are outlined in 70E Chapter 1, you know, the type of hazard, and they're just working mounting terminals, conductors to those terminals. And the person below is wearing safety equipment, insulated gloves, and they're going to do some testing there. But they'll use the correct tester that we'll get into when we get a little further into this presentation. But notice there are energized parts and live conductors. Now, if we look at the boxed-in information to the right of the illustration, then notice it's a job briefing and change of scope. And the job briefing shall cover the job safety plan plus the information on the energized electrical work permit if a permit is required. And we're talking about an electrical energized work permit where you're actually working on it energized. Additional job safety planning and job briefing shall be held if changes occur during the course of the work that might affect the safety of the employees. Now, what they're talking about here is there's some change that could take place that would expose that worker maybe to another voltage in addition to the voltage they're testing. They need to take briefings so they know where these hazards exist. And then, of course, we are told when we're taking such a shock risk assessment to see the Annex I to 70E, and it includes identify the hazards, ask about the hazards if you are not well acquainted with those hazards, check, make sure that we are taking care of these hazards in such a manner that will help us to be protected from these hazards, and then know what we're doing is safe. And then think, do I need a backup? Am I safe doing this work alone? Will the company even allow me to do this work alone? Is this work in the electrical safe work safety manual? All of these things, think about it. Think about your safety manual. Think about what 70E requires. Think about what 70B allows if you're pulling maintenance. And then think about how OSHA will drive these standards to provide the safety that OSHA calls for in OSHA 1910 Subpart S. And then prepare for an emergency. That's all in the Annex I. So you say, well, what do you mean prepare for an emergency? Well, is it old equipment? Is it equipment that's old and hadn't been serviced in a while? does the equipment have slow melting insulation? Is the insulation baked out? Is the terminals show signs of overheating or arcing? And you prepare for the emergency under these conditions. And when you go to 70B in 15.9.9 basically says, and also NFPA .9.1.3 would tell you, don't work on this type of equipment if you see these conditions energized. And then you may want to back up watching you to prepare for an emergency. So what type of emergency do you feel like is involved? And then you prepare for it, and what you would have to do to protect yourself from such an emergency. And that's what this section is all about, and that's what the Annex I will further provide information that will help you understand what all is involved in taking a shock risk assessment in accordance with NFPA 70E 110.1 I3.